Welcome inside episode 510 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller out in Golden, BC. And it's an Ottawa Senators game day. The Sens are in St. Louis, finishing off a disastrous road trip against a team that beat them 5-2 in Ottawa just last month.
And last time they were up against Ville Husso. This time they're going to see Jordan Binnington, hoping for better results. And the Sens are just about to hit the ice for practice, so we'll see how they line up.
Full preview coming of that game. Plus, we set Sens Twitter on fire this morning, asking for your spiciest takes surrounding the past, present, and future of the organization. Oh, do we ever have some meat to chew on when it comes to that? Today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. Now that everything's up and running, let's get to today's Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen on this Tuesday, March 8th, the happy International Women's Day to all who celebrate, which should be everyone. Are the Senators going to celebrate with 2 points or what tonight, Pills?
Well, I sure hope so. And they're going up against a St. Louis Blues team that has a lot of firepower. I mean, Ross, we'll take a look at the lines later on in the episode, but just going over them this morning, those top three lines are pretty hard to beat anywhere around the league. So the Senators certainly have their work cut out for them, but thank goodness this road trip will finally be over. I mean, this has got to be one of the worst trips we've seen, eh?
0-4 so far on the road trip. Of course, the Vegas game being the anomaly, only losing 2-1. The other games, they allowed 5 goals in Tampa, 3 in Florida, although may as well have been 7 if it wasn't for the brilliance of Anton Forsberg, then 8 against the Arizona Coyotes as well. So Ottawa, not only with those 4 straight losses on this trip, but they lost the game at home before the send-off against Montreal. Frankly, you can go all the way back to the 3-2 overtime loss against Boston before you can count to 2 in the win column. Ottawa with 1 win in their last 8 games, and even further back than that, 3 in their last 13. So to jump ahead a little bit, what's your key to victory tonight? Because I think fans, and maybe we chose opportune time to jump on the spicy take bandwagon, which we'll get to later on in today's show. But how do they stop the bleeding here as we go into another tough matchup?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, Ross. I mean, there's not much more I can say there. But one thing I was looking at, if the Sens want any chance of winning this game, they have to do it even strength 5-on-5, because the St. Louis Blues are one of the best teams in the league in special teams. Their penalty killing is 5th in the league at 84.7%. And then you flip over to the power play, Ross, 2nd in the league at 26%. And I don't think we have to review Ottawa's numbers on the PK and power play to compare how different these teams are. But it is drastic. Let me say, I got to scroll down quite a bit to find where Ottawa is in those categories. So the only chance I think they're going to have success here is at even strength 5-on-5.
And you hope you're getting the Binnington that we saw at the start of the season, not the one that we've seen recently, because as you noted before we started recording, his numbers have improved significantly. I don't know if maybe that's him feeling the push of Ville Husso behind him, but he's playing back to what you'd expect from the goalie who led the team to the 2019 Stanley Cup.
Yeah, much better, Ross. If you're looking at the January 1st, he led in 6 goals. Then January 25th, 7 goals. Then February 11th, and note the gap between all these games. So Husso's getting a lot of these starts. Another 5 goals. But the last 3 games he's played, 1 goal, shutout, and 2 goals. So much better performances from Jordan Binnington here. And I think depending on how, Binnington is an emotional guy. We talked about Robin Leonard getting angry and having some antics on the ice. Binnington is a lot like that. He is a snap show sometimes. So I'm looking at guys like Zach Sanford, who knows how to push Binnington's buttons, I assume, being former teammates together. Alex Formanton, Brady Tkachuk, Parker Kelly, Austin Watson. Get in this guy's kitchen and get him off his game. He is not one of those cool, calm, and collected goalies. If you piss him off, he'll get pissed off and it'll take his head right out of the game. And I think that's when you can have some success too.
Yeah, let's hope so, because right now it's just been a disastrous road trip. It has people even questioning the entirety of the rebuild. I don't think either of us are that far along the sad, miserable path that is. And you can certainly qualify with some off the ice things and be like, okay, like we just heard even Mike McKenna yesterday on Wally Mathot, like guys talk around the league, and there aren't many places where people would rather not play than for the Ottawa Senators. And you hear that from the horse's mouth as a guy who's played for, I think he said 16 different organizations have paid him. But I just want to focus on the breakdowns in this Sens season. And I've got a little graphic here. And again, if anyone wants to hire me as a graphic designer, I don't know if you can afford me. That being said, this is the monthly breakdown for the Ottawa Senators. October, they go 3-4-0. November, 1-10-1. We know the outside circumstances that helped that. I'm not going to say lead to it, because there's a lot of self-inflicted harm during that stretch. December, 5-3-1, a winning record. January, another winning record, just barely, although that January 1st game shouldn't count, but it does. 5-4-2 there. Then February, it feels like once we flip the script into February, Pilsy, we're getting back into the situation that we didn't want to see ourselves in. But the irony, I guess, is that the goals for and goals against are almost alternated from the start of the year, where they were still scoring goals outside of November at a very high rate. They were just allowing too many. And then in February, they get amazing goaltending, some of the best in the NHL. Yeah. And it's just the opposite. And yes, that was the month where neither Josh Norris or Drake Batherson played that entire month. And you can see that with a 9.7 clip on the power play. But all in all, and then, of course, March 0-4, haven't gotten a win yet. Yeah, that's tough. PK came down to earth after 3 great months. But what do you think needs to change to get out of this funk? Because, I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the NHL ranks at the bottom there. That is not good enough for where teams have gone through entire rebuilds and are already back in the top 10, top 12 in the league, since the Senators have just been floating around 25-32.
Yeah, I mean, look at the New York Rangers. Look at the LA Kings, right? Like, these are teams that started their rebuilds, you could say, even a year after the Senators, and they're miles ahead. So that's tough for sure. I would say the biggest thing that needs to change is, and I hate using the excuse, but this team was a shell of itself with all those injuries. And now it's pretty much just Batherson that needs to come back, but just Batherson is there needs to be an asterisk on there, because he's their best player this season. So if they get him back, that's a massive, massive boost. And now that Josh Norris is in the mix, Colin White's in the mix, this team is starting to get more familiar and accustomed. But then, of course, Matt Murray now back on IR. So this team never has really gotten enough momentum with a fully healthy roster. So it's so hard to judge where they're at as a whole.
Again, not going to read off every single number here, but just a reason to go check it out on YouTube. You can subscribe to Locked On Senators wherever you download your podcasts as well. And it's Monday to Friday, every single day, your team every day here on Locked On Senators. And right now, it's a little tough to stay positive, because you expected the team to take a step forward this year. Yes, COVID, but COVID has affected more than just Ottawa. I think that would be the understatement of the day. Injuries. Every team has injuries. Ottawa just played in Vegas, who are without their captain, and they're not doing great. But at the same time, what did they do? They went out when they knew they had injuries and whatnot, and it wasn't Stone at the time. He was injured after, but they're going out and improving their team. And a lot of the spicy takes have to do with the Senators needing to improve their team, or people just lacking confidence overall. So we're going to get to that on the other side of the break. We also have a full preview coming up of tonight's game. The Senators are officially on the ice, and we do have a lineup change to tell you about. I'm going to put that graphic together while Pilsy tells us a word from our friends at Rock Auto.
Rock Auto, they were our title sponsor, and for a good reason. If you guys have a car, truck, you need to know rockauto.com, because with the ever increasing numbers of makes, models, it's so hard for your local chain auto parts store to keep all the parts you need in stock. That's just the way the world is today. So why would you bother going in, answering all these questions just for them to say, oh yeah, we don't have what you need? No, don't do that. Go to rockauto.com and do it yourself. You have computers. You can access rockauto.com, whether you're a professional or do-it-yourselfer. So what else is great about Rock Auto? Well, they're a family business. They've been doing it for over 2 decades, so they know what they're doing. Why would you spend 30, 50, even 100% more on parts? Ross wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. We don't want you to do it. Use rockauto.com. Their prices are reliably low for every single customer. You might be thinking, okay, maybe they just have a couple things in stock. Wrong. Rock Auto has everything you might need. Brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, new carpet, whatever you want, they got it for any make and model. Rock Auto can help you. Go explore their easy-to-use website today at rockauto.com to find the solution for all your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. And write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. It's rockauto.com.
All right, Pilsy. So we have a missing person to report at Sens Morning Skate. Connor Brown is not on the ice, and that's why we're going to save our preview to the end of the show after DJ Smith speaks to the media, and we can update whether it's just a maintenance day or worse.
I mean, that guy deserves a maintenance day. Let's be honest. He leads forwards in ice time almost every single game. I don't think he hasn't missed too much time other than the broken jaw, which, hey, cut the guy some slack. He got his jaw busted open. But other than that, and even throughout his career, Ross, if you look at his career, he's been very healthy, very reliable. We talked about it. The best ability is availability, and Connor Brown does that. So if he needs a day off at the end of a grueling road trip, even if it's nothing serious, I think he's earned that.
You mean day off from the morning skate? He's got to play tonight if he can.
I wouldn't even have that big of a problem giving him the night off. Like I said, this guy is the Thomas Chabot of forwards. He's out there in all situations, and he's relied upon heavily. So everybody needs a break once in a while, except us, your team, every day.
You're right. You can follow us on Twitter at Sen Central, where we put out a spicy topic. We asked for your spiciest take on the Ottawa Senators. We've got, I believe, 8 here that we've singled out. But if you want to read the over 70 and counting replies, you can check that out on our Twitter at Sen Central. Again, shoot us a follow there too. Why not? All right, let's start with a little positivity.
Fun.
This one's from Graham. Barring a worse than typical injury situation next season, the Senators will make the playoffs. Your thoughts?
I like it. And you know what? Say what you want. I think if this team had been healthy, at least mostly healthy this season, they would be in a much better spot. Like when Norris and Batherson left, this team was clicking. Like they were racking up the points. There's such a big part of this team. Losing them was detrimental. We lost Thomas Chabot for quite a while to Matt Murray on and off of the IR. So I really think if they can plug in a couple extra pieces, find that sniper forward to play on the right wing with Tim Stützle and Alex Formenton, I think this team is in good shape. And sure, you need a little help on the back end, but help is on the way as Jake Sanderson is coming up through the ranks here. And I think he will make a big difference on that D-core, which has been probably one of the worst parts of this team for quite a while. So I really do think that as long as there's not terrible injury concerns, that at least this team has a shot at making the playoffs. Like, you know, they won't be in the bottom 5 yet again. Maybe they just miss it, but I think they have a chance at going for a wild card spot.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Pilsy, when it comes to this offseason. If they have an offseason like last year, if they have an offseason like 2022, they're going nowhere. And I'm going to sit with that because you see all these other great prospect pools. LA is the perfect example. Mm-hmm. The Victor Arvidsson pickup last year just puts all of these prospects down one line.
Well, and Ross, especially the Philip Deneau signing, because
There you go.
that allows a guy like Quinton
Another one.
Byfield to not have to be a top 2 center, right? And
Yeah.
Philip Deneau can take on a lot of those tough assignments, and Byfield can focus on trying to get some offense going, and Kopitar doesn't have to do all those tough assignments. So yeah, you make a great point that, and other than that, they didn't do a whole lot. Deneau and Arvidsson, their decor, if you look on paper, seems terrible, but it's seeming to hold up. Drew Doughty is doing fine, and Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson are standing strong in net. So LA is a great example because they didn't have to go out and get an Artemi Panarin or get a first overall draft. I mean, they got a second overall, so that's a bit of a stretch, but they didn't have all the luck that New York did. But LA just did it through good developing, finding the right pieces in the offseason, and building a culture. And the Senators, I think they're building a culture, but they haven't been able to find those pieces. They tried with Dadonov, with Murray. I'm not even going to say it. Derek Stepan, that's a swing and a miss from day one, but they tried and they failed. So the pro scouting needs to figure it out, because until they can get, like, I don't care, they could draft in the top 5 for the next 3 years. It doesn't matter, because you need veterans that can support these young guys. They can't all do it by themselves. Like Thomas Chabot and Brady Tkachuk got to be sick of losing and having to carry all the weight of this dark cloud that hangs over the Senators for their entire careers.
This offseason, and we said this about 2020, but that was more so about the draft. This is the most important offseason, period. And in terms of adding substance, not quantity. I don't care if they add 18 top-line AHLers that are just scratching the surface like Josh Brown was. No, I want legitimate NHL talent that can come and create an environment where I'm not expecting Shane Pinto to be a top 6 centerman, as he's missed a full year now of his development. Say what you want about last year, only playing 30 some odd games, but he's still a great prospect. This doesn't take away from him, but I don't want him to have the pressure of needing to be that. The Senators need an offseason where this offseason, they're going to show us whether they're serious or whether this is all just a bunch of crap that we've been shoveled into our mouths the last 4 years, because I'm okay with pushing the unparalleled success, for lack of a better term, back one season with the pandemic, with all that's going on, 1 year. Outside of that, if a team's rebuilding for more than 5 years, it's not a rebuild anymore. It's a complete joke, and it should be an AHL franchise, or, as people like to point out when the dismantling was going on, a farm team for the rest of the NHL. So I'm done with the rebuild as of this offseason, and that will reflect in my attitude on this show day in and day out next season. For the end of this season, I want to see more development and all that sort of thing. But man, if they suck next year, I'm not the only guy who's watching this team day in and day out who's going to start looking at other things to do with my time, because I feel like we're fighting an uphill battle here where, the young pieces all look great. Show me a team that's won the Stanley Cup. Like, I always go back, and we talked about this in the offseason, Pilsy, but remember what Pittsburgh did? They went out, sure, those guys maybe a little more over the hill. Like, they added like Mark Recchi, John LeClaire. Like, they added legitimate veterans who could come in and insulate the rest of the talented youngsters. And Ottawa's, who are their veterans right now? Like, who that they haven't claimed off of waivers or traded for a 7th round pick? Like, is Zach Sanford supposed to be? Yeah, there you go. Tyler Ennis, a guy who, when the Leafs brought him in, he should be like a 4th line guy, right? If you want to have him as that type of guy, I'm fine. But he's not like a guy who can play 17, 18 minutes for you a night and be a top 6 guy. So I just think that the pro scouting has been so bad during this rebuild. It has to be better. Otherwise, I'm going to say no. I'm just looking no, Graham. They're not going to make the playoffs next year unless they have a great offseason. This one, it could be controversial, but we'll see what you think. At A-Trains 24, blocked by Volchenkov. Hope he didn't actually block you, but he has blocked a few shots in his day. Alfie will never get into the Hall of Fame. Your thoughts?
I mean, this one's tough because if you ask any Sens fan, obviously they think he should, but should and would are two different things. And there's some sort of bias that has not allowed him to. And yes, I know he didn't win a Stanley Cup, but if you put up his career numbers into compare them to guys who have just recently been inducted, they're very similar, if not better. So I just think Alfie's a guy who the Ottawa Senators are a younger franchise, but he was the face of this franchise for a long time. And he was the reason they had so much success in those years. So I think Alfie needs to get into the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to disagree just because that's too sad if he doesn't. Like, I can't handle a world where Alfie just never gets into the Hockey Hall of Fame because that's ridiculous.
What I'll say is never lose hope. We see every year, like Doug Wilson was in like his 20th year of eligibility.
Kevin Lowe, like all these guys. Yeah.
All these guys. If you don't get in, there's probably a from 3 to 10 years where you're kind of forgotten.
Yep.
And my draw the line moment, and people will argue this and say, oh, they deserve to go in. They're so special. It's so awkward. But in no world should Henrik and Daniel Sedin be in the Hall of Fame before Daniel Alfredsson. I will die on that hill.
But I do think they should eventually get in, but not
I think
before
so too.
Alfie.
And the counterpoint is they both won one major award. I think that Henrik won the MVP one year, or the Art Ross as the top.
I think
scorer.
one got a Hart. I forget.
I mean, who's
Hart and an Art Ross? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was probably the same year. One of them just dishing to the other. They're great players, but they can't get in before Daniel Alfredsson. The resume speaks for itself, and we argued to no end and to no avail the last time. I wore my Alfie jersey right by the Hockey Hall of Fame on decision day, but it'll be a matter of time. I say yes, he gets in. It just might not be as soon as Senators fans could hope. All right, let's go to Caleb, and we're shocked that this isn't about Colin White. We know at eMelnick246 loves his Whitey, but he says that Roby Jarventie is a better prospect than Egor Sokolov.
So are we talking about right now?
No.
Or
he clarified with us.
Okay.
He said as a prospect. He also in his clarification said Igor's better right now, but he's also 2 years older.
Yep, and that's a fair point for sure. For this one, it's tough because I'm a Jarventie guy. Like I fully subscribe to the danger he has in the slot. Like that release is incredible. But the issue with Jarventie is his consistency. So unless he can figure out his consistency, I'll say no, because Sokolov has already figured out his consistency. And yes, I do understand he's 2 years older, so it's hard, but we're just going off what we got already. And I feel like Sokolov, his biggest problem was his skating. And talk to anyone. I mean, we've talked to Egor himself, so first-hand source. He's working on his skating so much, and you can see the difference. Like, he has really improved, and he's making strides in his skating strides, because no longer is he just kind of a big guy that takes a while to get the wheels chugging. Like, he's able to go north-south pretty good here. I think what he needs to continue working on is his pivots and maybe his east-west kind of movements, and being able to quickly, like his agility rather than his speed. Once he gets going, he's fast, but it's picking that up quickly and going short distances quickly that he needs a little more work on. But you guys know me. I love a guy with a shot powerful enough that he can just skate up the wing and rip one past goalies. And I would say Sokolov has that, where Jarventie doesn't quite have it. Jarventie needs someone to feed him the puck and to quickly get it off. Sokolov's a guy where he can carry it in and use his shot dangerously.
Maybe we'll get to this a little bit later, but to me, and I can feel the people already grabbing their steering wheel a little tighter, ready to punch you in the face. But I think Roby Jarventie might be a guy who I try to move as a trade chip right now. If you look at the left side, and Igor's a typical Russian where right shot, but can play either wing. Right. Yep. You often see those guys on their off wings, but with Roby, I think that he's just going to be a prototypical left wing. Like, to me, his top end projection is like a Mike Hoffman, like a 6 shooter.
That's pretty.
Is he going to be is he going to be a 200-foot player though? We'll see. Nope. And I mean, Troy Mann is on 1200 and just the title right now said that he's really impressed him over the last 5-6 games. So it's way too early, I think, to judge, but that's why Caleb's looking ahead. And it's a fair point. I'm not chirping the legitimacy of the take, but since they've been drafted, Roby has played 95 games, has 52 points, and Igor's played 72 games and has 56 points. Now, some of Roby's games came in Liga, about probably 20 extra, because they both played in the AHL starting at the same time. Egor, the more dominant player. But again, he has 2 years on him. So I think time will tell, but you're right. You nailed it with the consistency. We got to see a bit more of that for Roby, as Egor now has led the team in scoring in his first year and now leads the team in scoring in his second year. I think he's always going to be stronger than Roby. I think that'll do well in board play and battles and down low in the corner. But Roby's shot is ridiculous. However, again, that's one of Igor's best strengths too. So where do you find the differentiating factor? Is it skating at the end of the day? And how much better is Roby than Egor, especially if he's gliding a little more than he's being powerful? But I think that's going to be a fascinating discussion to have as the years go on there. Let's hit a break here real quick. We've got a few more takes to get to, and then we'll preview tonight's game. I will tell you that Anton Forsberg is starting tonight. The Senators goalie is 11-10-2 with a 277 goals against and a 920 save percentage. He did not play in the last meeting. It was Matt Murray versus Ville Husso. So we'll see a different goalie for both teams than we did at the Canadian Tire the last time the St. Louis Blues faced the Ottawa Senators. Pilsy, do you want to tell us a word from our friends at BetOnline?
BetOnline.net, the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and the Locked On Senators podcast. So we got to tell you all about them. Look, maybe football's over, but there's so much more you can get in on. Basketball, hockey, March Madness coming up. It's heating up. If you've been following along, get your brackets in as well. But they have all the latest odds, totals, player performance props. You can bet on where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for sports scores, podcasts, news, updates, anything you need to give you an edge in the gambling community. You can find it at BetOnline.net. There's boxing, UFC, Saturday nights. You're getting together with the guys. Get some action in on the UFC fights at betonline.net. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all the trends and all the action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts.
All right, Pilsy, we got to get back to this because we are nearing 100 responses online. Sens fans they are fired up right now, and it was a simple 5-word tweet. What's your spiciest Sens take? And we're getting them in droves, and we can't thank Sens fans enough for making Locked On Senators your first listen of the day and a part of your daily routine Monday through Friday. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, where we'd appreciate you subscribing for bonus content like the video we dropped yesterday, where we discuss who the Senators' biggest trade chip is leading up to trade deadline that is now less than 2 weeks away. But back to the spicy takes we go. Let's go with a fun one to start out. At Sen Scientist, the Senator Science, he would know all the parabolas and all those math terms.
The physics.
There you go. Thank you. The quantum leap. I don't know. We're gonna get roasted by the Sen Scientist for that one. But he says that Spartacat has terrible aim with the t-shirt cannon. That sounds personal.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is a guy who has watched everyone around him get a t-shirt, and that excitement of catching it and be like, I got one. And he's sitting there being like, I want to experience that one day. Well, Senator Science, I will tell you from experience, being a mascot is not easy. And I'm sure Sparty is doing his best. I spent an afternoon in the Belleville Senators mascot costume. Belly, you know him, you love him. And I've never been sweatier in my life. I was wearing Christian Yaros's old practice skates, skating around, pretending to pump the crowd up. I didn't get to use the t-shirt cannon. I think you need a degree or at least some training to do that. So he's probably well-trained, but hopefully, Senator Science, you get yourself a t-shirt one day.
I got a quick story because he used to fire hot dogs out of that thing too. The Master Blaster, nice. I want to say it was called. And I was starving. I ended up going great one-handed catch. I looked like Terrell Owens, just pull it in one hand. And I open it up, and I guess they take them out of the freezer before they do it because it was ice cold. So if you're hungry,
don't cold rely.
Don't rely on Spartacat to feed you. I mean, a lion would eat his food himself, the alpha. I can't wait to go see Sparty. We got to get to a game there. But I'm going to leave it at this, Senator Science. That was very personal. And I hope that you one day get that t-shirt that you've been craving. Okay, Stefan, who we love shot us a photo of himself at the game in Arizona. Love the Sens abroad. If you're going to a game on the road, boots on the ground, tag us in the tweet at Sen Central. And this is a spicy one.
Yes.
But I agree with him. The Dany Heatley hate needs to stop. Where are you at with that?
I'm on your side and on his side as well, because yes, we know he demanded a trade right after
12 years ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and he turned down a trade a proposal to Edmonton. But I think it ended up working out better, the Sharks trade, anyways. I forget what I think it was like Dustin Penner.
Why do I remember this? Like, these are facts that I just shouldn't have in my head. I know the
exact
it all?
Trade. Do it.
Just in my head. It was Penner, Cogliano, Ladislav Schmid, and a second.
Yeah, so I'll take McCulloch and Chichu. It was McCulloch, Chichu. There's got to be another piece there.
I don't remember.
Oh, come on, Ross. Jesus, come on.
I know. I remember the one that didn't happen, but not the one that did. A second-round pick in 2010. Let's see if I can find out. Kent Simpson. So I think the Senators must have traded that pick.
Weird.
You know what is also wild? Dany Heatley's next trade from San Jose to Minnesota was in exchange for Martin Havlat.
Yeah.
So a couple Sens legends, 1-for-1 trade there. But it needs to stop. This guy, he was a legend. Like, we still talk about the pizza line, and we're going on 14 years since the Senators made it to the Stanley Cup final. He was a part of the most dominant line in team history. He leads the franchise in goals per game and points per game. He's the only Ottawa Senator in franchise history to average more than a point per game. I mean, I rest my case. Say what you want. And he had superstar qualities, and that's something that the Senators, we had it with Alfredsson, we had it with Carlson, but like, those guys are a dime a dozen, and the personality, say what you want, maybe not the most likable guy all the time, but did he have an aura? And he's the kind of player, and we hope Timmy can be that, where fans of other teams turn on the Senators. They're like, I got to see what Dany Heatley's doing tonight. 50-06, 50-07, the hate needs to stop.
Yep, agreed.
I'm not saying put his jersey in the rafters, but just stop hating on the guy.
Just appreciate what he did when he was here.
If they have another alumni game on Parliament Hill or wherever it is, he's got to be there. Like, it's not an alumni game if Alfie's going out there and looking around and Spets is still playing, so he's not there. But no Spets and no Heatley. Like, that. What's a Sens alumni game without those three?
Yep, agreed.
All right, let's move on. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, you just agree with me, right? Like, there's no real debate there to be had.
Yeah.
But I can understand if people are still a little upset. I'm glad you brought up the trading Knicks, because I think that really added fuel to the fire. It's like, you want to leave? Well, fine, see ya.
And I think a reason people hate him is because he dissed Brian Murray, and no one should diss Brian Murray. So that side I get, but still, he was a lot of fun.
Spencer writes in, at Spencer DJ Blake, Trent Mann and company are an average scouting team. No better, no worse. And we obviously see a lot of both sides of that, where, they're the best scouting staff in the world, and then others say they're the worst. So this, it seems pretty mundane, but it is spicy, because I don't think a lot of people are in that middle ground.
Exactly. Yeah, there's the in Trent Mann we trust, and then we'll call it the elite prospects viewpoint of Trent Mann. Let's just say that. I would say that's a fair take. I would say he's Trent Mann and co are a little better than average. And it's kind of unfair to be really putting a firm take on this, because it hasn't been that long. Like, scouting, a lot of scouts end up spending a lot more time, and you get to see the fruits of their labor really show, because they're 10 years longer. And I think you're looking at players like Ross, you made a good point. Like, if you look at Batherson, Formanton, JBD, like all these guys, there's so many good picks in here that are just scratching the surface that we can't really fully judge them on yet. I tend to trust Trent Mann, because a lot of the time when picks are made, and myself included, you're like, what the hell is this? There's like 5 other guys I wanted. I never heard of this guy. I'm Googling him, and it seems like it was a bit of a reach, but you know what? Where you're drafted, really, I think people focus on too much. It's how does that player fit into this team? And you're drafting people too. You're not just drafting hockey data players. Like, they're not just numbers you can punch into a computer. You have to look at the people they are and how they're going to fit into your culture down the road. And you're not drafting the player for who he is on draft day. You're drafting him for who you think he can become. So I would say to this, again, just to wrap it up, Trent Mann and co are better than average.
We always say, and I think Craig Button was the one who told us that you can't judge a draft until 5 years later. So
Agreed.
now we're coming up on the 5-year mark of the first draft that Trent Mann had. Now, you could just look at the first round and immediately from a scouting standpoint say, they drafted the only player in the first round of that 2017 draft that did not play an NHL game so far. Shane Bowers is the only player to not play an NHL game. But then on the flip side, and this probably mitigates my argument too, because he also, I'm sure, had to say that Brandstrom was a guy they should target, because you look at your amateur scouts, it was a year after that draft. So you still probably want your amateur scouts' opinion on that player. But he also targeted Josh Norris as a guy who, okay, we should trade for. That's a guy who you should try to get on the team. I'm going to probably say lesser of that. But then you look at the second round, Alex Formanton, good pick. And then if you did a redraft right now, Drake Batherson, who went 121st overall, and this one I give all the credit to Trent Mann because he's an East Coast guy. He would have had boots on the ground and an opinion building of Drake Batherson, who'd been passed over twice in the draft. And if you do a redraft right now, he goes from 121st, I'd say probably 5th. Like Jason Robertson, Cale Makar, Miro Heiskanen. I'm already running out of names after that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't sit here and pretend I know the 2017 draft off by heart like you, but definitely he goes in the first round for sure.
Well, first round would be the understatement of the day. But that being said, I'll say better than average. I think we know his legacy is going to be hinged on the 2020 draft, those 10 selections that they made. And we pulled it up the other day here. This isn't updated, but in case you missed that, let's pull up where they're at right now. Do I have it uploaded already? How long ago did we bring that up? I'll have to re-grab it here. So maybe we'll just move on for now. Go listen last week on LOSP where we had out how the 2020 draft picks have played so far. We also tweeted it as well. So search at Sen Central 2020 draft and you'll be able to find that there pretty quickly because we got to get to a preview of today's game as well. And we do have 2 more to get to, Pilsy. One of them, I'm very curious your opinion on this. Gordy writes in, Tim Stützle will be back playing the wing once Pinto and Greig are NHLers.
Disagree. Because, look, I personally, my opinion of Tim Stützle is he's being supported and being in position to succeed as a centerman because we talked about it. His play up against the half wall, his play up against the boards, him standing still and waiting for the play to come to him is not advantageous to his style of play. He needs to be skating. He needs to feel the puck. He's so crafty with his dekes getting into the zone or even just breaking out of his own zone, which used to drive me crazy, but he's getting better at it now. It just, you're not really giving him the best opportunities on the wing. I feel like and he's a young centerman. Yes, his face-off numbers are atrocious. Like, I'm not going to try to sugar coat that. Like, he has a lot of work to do in the face-off dot, as do most 20-year-old centermen, right? So I think if they were to do that, I think it'd be a mistake just because he's built so much momentum and I think he's getting better as time goes on here. I think it's more about finding the right line mates for him. Formanton has been clicking pretty good. So I would say I think he stays at center just because he's a better player at that position.
And because we spent the entire lead up to the 2020 draft saying they need to get a top line center.
We were hot about that, yeah.
Then they put him on wing and we're like, what the hell? Even in our mock draft with Locked On Network, we said we're drafting him as a center.
Yes.
And then now he's at center and he's playing well. Lord help me if he ends up back on the wing. However, Ridley Greig is an interesting point. And the final thing we'll mention right here is at Sens Network, Ridley Greig will make the NHL out of training camp next season.
I disagree with that one. I think it'd be good to give him a season in the AHL and especially look at the center depth, right? You got Norris, Stützle, Pinto, and Gambrell, and then even Colin White could be an option at center as well. So I don't think there's no need to rush him, and I think you want to give Ridley Greig some time to realize, hey, the things you were getting away with in the WHL, you're not going to get away with so easily in a professional league, and let him learn that in the AHL.
If you're watching on YouTube, Alfie may have found his way to a few chicken wings, and he is lethargic as we speak right now. What a guy.
He's not dead. He looks dead. He's not dead. Guys.
Alfie, what's up, guy? Yeah,
okay,
as you can see. Yeah, good dog, Dad.
Proof
here.
of life.
Good. Yeah, exactly. All right. That being said, just another reason to watch the show on YouTube. We got dog appearances. Pillsy's got his cats running around when he's back home. But of course, we're your team every day, and we appreciate you making us a part of your routine. And you can also join us after each and every Senators game in the postcast presented by Locked On Senators. We'll be live tonight following the game. We may be joined by one of the Locked On Blues hosts. People are seeming to like that perspective that the opponent's Locked On host brings, and that's the power of the network. We've got local experts on the biggest stories, and, well, we're happy to be a part of it. We're also happy that it's a Senators game day because it's just another opportunity for the mood to shift if the boys can come out with a solid effort. We teased that we didn't know what was going on with Connor Brown. DJ Smith saying it is a game time decision for Connor Brown as he has been banged up for the last little while. So unfortunate, but still a chance that he plays tonight. That being said, here are how the Ottawa Senators lined up at morning skate, Pillsy, and then I will get your opinion on how you think this game could end up going tonight. You know what? I'm having a little trouble uploading it, so give me a second here. While I do that, you let me know what would be a good effort in your opinion tonight.
I mean, as long as it's not as terrible as the rest of this road trip, but that's easier said than done when you're going up against one of the top teams in the league, a team that the forward depth is just insane. And even the defenseman depth is really good too. And they're well coached. This is a team that knows what it takes to get it done. And I don't see a win coming here, Ross. I mean, I would love to be positive and say the Sens are going to cap this road trip off with a W, but I don't see it. Hopefully they can keep it within 2 goals. I guess that's where I'll put it at.
All right. Well, we'll see. I'm at the streaming service anyways. I can't upload the Senators line, so I'll just read them off for you. And we do have one made for the St. Louis Blues tonight. I'll tweet this board out at Sen Central right when the boys go on for warm-up, so you'll be able to see there. But the lines are as follows. Tyler Ennis moves up to play at right wing alongside Norris and Brady Tkachuk. The second line is Tim Stützle between Formanton and Gaudette. Colin White is between Nick Paul and Zach Sanford, who makes his first appearance back in St. Louis against the team that traded him. And then Dylan Gambrell is between Parker Kelly and Austin Watson. On defense, Shabbat Zub, Holden Zaitsev, and Brandstrom with Josh Brown. I already told you, Anton Forsberg is the starter. Connor Brown, game time decision. Your thoughts on tonight's alignment?
I mean, very similar other than the Connor Brown change here. I'm glad they're getting some consistency. I think a big thing we're going to be looking at here is can Nikita Zaitsev start to turn things around here? Because, yes, it has been rough watching number 22 out there, and he hasn't had a whole lot of success. I mean, the most notable thing he's done, Ross, in the last couple games is injure our own goalie in Matt Murray. Like, that's the most notable thing. So we got to turn that around.
Yep, they certainly do. And when it comes to Nikita Zaitsev, I didn't pull any punches with how I feel about his game right now in the last postcast, but it's just beating a dead horse, but it's beating a dead horse who signed for 4 years, or I guess 2 more after this one. I mean, it just feels like 20 years. It may as well be the way they're trotting him out for over 20 minutes a night. So let's continue to hope and pray that he either plays better or gets out of town sooner rather than later. And there's nowhere to hide here when you've got a team like the St. Louis Blues, because up and down their lineup, these guys are just elite as it comes. As we're pulling up on YouTube right now, the St. Louis Blues expected lineup tonight will start in goal, where Jordan Binnington has a 13-11-3 record with a 309 goals against and a 904 save percentage. That save percentage is the lowest of any season in his NHL career. Up front, Ryan O'Reilly between Brandon Saad and David Perron. Robert Thomas between Pavel Buchnevich and Vladimir Tarasenko. The third line is Braden Shen, Jordan Kyrou, and Ivan Barbashev. And the fourth line, Tyler Bozak with Klim Kostin and Oscar Sundqvist. On defense, Mikola Parayko, Krug, Falk, and Wallman with Bertuzzo. The St. Louis Blues are 32, 16, and 7 on the season, a 6-2-2 stretch over the last 10 games. But Pillsy, they haven't gotten a win in 3 straight games.
Yeah, it's been tough sledding for them the last couple of games, although not like they were getting blown out of the water or anything. So this team still is, there's a lot to be worried about here. If we're going for lookout players, Ross, I'm going to go with Ivan Barbashev. Now, this is a guy who, maybe a lot of Sens fans don't know because his career high in points was 26 points before this. 12, 13, 26, 26, 12. So definitely a bottom 6 guy. How about 41 points this season in 54 games, Ross? He's really turning things up here. And the last 2 games, no points, but the 3 games before that, goal, assist, and 3 assists. So he is able to connect and help out, and he's playing on a line with Kyrou and Shen. Kyrou leads the team in points with 53 points in 51 games. So he's going to be someone the Sens need to look out for.
That's your lookout player there?
That's my lookout player, Barbashev.
All right. Nice. I'm going to stick with the Russian theme here, but for me, it's Pavel Buchnevich. What a steal and what a guy. Like, how the Rangers just let him go. Say what you want about them wanting to get tougher.
Yeah,
and,
that's what it is.
Contract had to play in there as well. Buchnevich just had to get a re-signing last offseason. He signs for 5.8 on the AAV, but he's almost at a point per game. He's at 46 points in 49 games, and he's just been a consistent goal scorer and a point producer over the last 5 years, really, since becoming a full-time NHLer. He's also been held off the score sheet in 3 straight games, Pilsy, and that worries me when they have the Ottawa Senators. He's a hungry player and a guy who had 3 goals in 4 games, before that 4 and 5, if you even go back a little bit further. And the last time they played Ottawa, 3 assists for Pavel Buchnevich. So he's my lookout player. Let's wrap up the show with our locked on players, Pilsy. Who do you got for the Ottawa Senators tonight?
Well, I'm going to be locked on Alex Formenton because his ice time has been very interesting to watch. It's been up and down, up and down. He had a goal up against Arizona. But Ross, he has now played in 82 NHL games in his career. So you got kind of a full season look, snapshot, 17 goals, 13 assists for 30 points. I think if we see him get consistent 82 game seasons, that number's going to rise. He's got 23 of those 30 points in the 52 games this season. I think he can be a consistent 20 goal scorer, dangerous threat on the PK. And I mean, other than Connor Brown, this guy's got to lead the team in breakaways per game because that speed is just incredible. So I really think Alex Formenton, hopefully he can keep things going with Tim Stützle up on that second line. So I'm going to be trying to be locked on to him. He's so damn fast.
I'm going to lock on to Colin White this evening. And for no other reason than the fact that, well, one, he's been producing since coming back, but mostly he's a guy who I think, especially if Connor Brown's out of the lineup tonight, we're going to see him used as a jack of all trades and move up and down the lineup. He'll potentially take over that first penalty killing unit role that Connor Brown's left. So absence of Connor Brown, if it is the case, we know he's a game time decision tonight, could be filled by the role that Colin White has, expanding even further. We know that Colin was back on the first power play unit in the last game, and he's produced on the power play since his return. But I think we're going to see a lot of shifts with Colin White playing right wing, either alongside Stützle and Formenton or alongside Tkachuk and Norris. And I'm really going to be keeping my eye on Colin White in this game, because say what you want about the upcoming offseason, the 1/3 buyout, all that, we know. I think that for him, he's just happy being back playing hockey. It was so long for him. You go through the offseason getting ready for the year, and then to be hurt long-term in preseason, this guy's just got to be over the moon happy to be back playing the game he loves. And I think that we're seeing the fruits of that labor here with his production since coming back. And I'm hopeful that that's going to continue here for Colin White, as we're looking at a guy who has 3 points in 5 games. I'm calling it. He's going to get a goal tonight for the Ottawa Senators.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Hey, I'm all for Colin White to have as much success in this stretch as possible. Let's see what he can do when given the opportunity. So hopefully he can remain healthy and get those opportunities.
8 p.m. Eastern game tonight. The Senators are in St. Louis to take on the Blues. Stay locked on Senators wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up in the corner. It goes a long way for us. You can follow the show on Instagram, lockedon.senators. Just hit 600 followers. We're famous And you can follow us on Twitter at Sen Central. For today, we say goodbye. We'll chat with you in the postcast right here on our YouTube channel. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.